Represent the company of Harcourts, Rata and Co. Joined here today by my award-winning team in blue. You've met them throughout the campaign. Should you have any questions, please feel free to approach either Giordano Giacomantonio and, of course, Leon El-Assaad, who no doubt you've met throughout the marketing campaign. Let me share with you the following announcements, which are in place to help you bid and buy with absolute confidence here today. The auction will be conducted in accordance with the rules and any additional conditions that were made available for inspection before the start of the auction. The auction rules prohibit an auctioneer from accepting bids or offers for a property after the property has been knocked down to the successful bidder. The vendors have a reserve price as the auctioneer will indicate bidders on request. The law prohibits false bids, prohibits major disruptions by bidders, and prohibits bidders attempting to prevent others from bidding, and provides for fines for such conduct. Rules permit for vendor bids. The words I'll use during the auction to indicate that I'm making a bid on behalf of the vendor are vendor bid, and by law only I, as the auctioneer, can make a vendor bid. The contract of sale has been on display prior to today's auction. We call for 10% deposit upon the fall of the hammer and the signing of that contract here today, and the balance to be paid at settlement in a flexible 60 to 90 days time, at which time the vendor will provide the lucky buyer with vacant possession of the property. All in all, quite a straightforward document. Everything's in there. Everything is quite clear. So buyers, is with my highest recommendation what we offer for your consideration and competition here today. Granite Outlook, a great opportunity for the first home buyer, a great opportunity perhaps for the investor, and an opportunity for you and your family to buy in this great family location where we've got access to everything that you need for a great lifestyle. Parkland as close as the end of the street. Plenty of options when it comes to transport, schooling and shopping. The property itself, well maintained, absolutely nothing to do. Move straight in, but before you do that, you've got to get the salt sticker up on the board. So if that is your goal, now's the opportunity to reserve that right, buyers. Where can I see a fair and reasonable starting bid for number 3, Granite Outlook? Who'd like to start us off? I don't mind the call. I'm in your hands. Start me where you like. This is your moment, buyers. Your time, your say. I've had mine. The vendors have set their reserve with the job to get the job done here today. A reasonable reserve. At 600,000, fairly been offered now. Welcome and best of luck at 6. At $600,000, fairly been offered now. Even money at 6. At 600 the bid. At 600,000, the bid's there. 600,000, there's the bid. There's the competition at 600,000. If you've come to buy, now's your time. At $600,000, the bid. At 600 now for the first call. At 20 at 620,000. Same courtesy at 20 if you like. At 20 I have. At 620,000, make it 40 now. At 620,000, fairly been offered at 620 the bid. At 620,000. At 620 the bid now, make it 40 in the rise. One bid, not enough here for you today. At 630, at 630,000. I'll shorten my stride, get you back involved. And the same courtesy at 10 if you like. At 30 I have them 40. At 640,000 now. At 640 the bid. At 640,000, got to be 50 in the rise. At 640 I have. At 640,000, got once. At 640 all done. At 640,000, second call. At $640,000 the bid, are we done? Finished at $640,000 the bid for the third and final call at $640,000 all done. At 50 now. At 650, fresh bid in there at 50. At 650,000, make it 60 now. At 650,000 at 650 the bid. At 55 at 655, and the same courtesy at 5 if you like. At 55 I have and make it 60. At 655. At 655,000, fairly been offered now at 655 the bid. At 655,000, bids here this side of the road against you, sir. At 655. At 655,000, once at 655. At 655,000, second call at 655. At 655, the bid's there. Opportunity with you, 60 will get you back on top. We're very, very close. If we don't get any further bidding, dealing only with them, they will be putting the salt sticker on. That's how close we are.
Would you take 2?
I'll take 2.5.
Yeah, right.
657.5, and welcome back at 57.5. At 657,560 the call now. At 657.5. At 657,500, make it 60. At 660 got. At 660,000, I'll still take 2.5. At 660,000, and the bid's back there at 660. At 660,000, think about small bids, insert makes a competition easy to come along, easy to beat small bid, harder to beat a big one. Big bids buy property at 600. And 67 at 662.5, and the bid's there at 660 at 660,000. These 2.5s have got me confused. At 660,000, at 61, breaking me down here today. Gets you back in on top at 661. At 661,000, take me to 65. At 661, and the bid's at 661. At 662, at 662 the bid. At 662,000, fairly been offered now at 662, and the bid's back there. Make it 65 in the rise at 662 the bid. At 662,000 once, at 662 all done. At 662,000, second call at 662, done and finished. Third and final call at $662,000 the bid, all done, finished, silent, out at 662,000. The bid's there, 662. Can I say 65 in the rise? At 662,000, fairly been offered. Bid there, opportunity here, extremely close.
I'll take another 500.
Add another, I'll take one, sir. At 663, can I say?
62,500.
At 62 and a half, you want to make it 63. You've got to show some strength. At 663, can I say 63? At 63, and welcome back. At 663,000, make it 65 now.
64.
At 64, at 664,000. At 664,000, brick by brick, we're going here today. At 664, and the bid's back there. Still great buying at that, surely. At 664,000, fairly been offered now, 664 the bid. At 664, and the bid's there. Opportunity back with you at 64. At 664,000, once at 664. Gio, can you please run in and get some instructions for me, please? Thank you. At 664,000. Second call at 664. Third, final call at 664. The bid, all done, finished, silent. At 600 and 664 and a half. An easy one to beat, 664 and a half. Can I say 65 now? At 65. Was that 75? I misheard. I always hear higher numbers for some reason. At 665,000, welcome back, back on top, back in the box seat, back keys with you. At 665,000, we are on the market. We sell here today at 665. The bid's here, the keys are here. If you've come to buy, it's now or never. Show me now. Bid me now, or forever hold your peace at 665,000. The bid's there, the keys are there. We play for keeps, sir. No second chances. We are selling here today at 665,000 and a half, at 665 and a half. At 665,500 now at 665 and a half, and the bid's there. At 665,500, fairly been offered. At 665 and a half, bid there, keys there. You had those keys for a moment. If you want them permanently, you must bid me now. At 665,500, fairly been offered once at 665 and a half, done. At 667, at 667,000, at 667 the bid, at 667,000, you're absolutely sure. You're not going to let me sell it at 67, are you? 667,000. At 600, he loves it. Mark loves it. At 667,000, the bid's there. At 667 now. At 667,000, first call at 67, done. Second call at 667,000, done. Finished. Third, final call, $667,000 the bid, all done, all finished, all silent and out at 667,000. We haven't spoken in a while, are we definitely done here? Thank you very much for you being here today. At 667,000. We done, sir, absolutely sure? Happy for them to keep the keys? It's now or never. If you're here to buy, tell me now.
Would you take another 5?
I will. 5,000 at 667 and a half. At 667 and a half now. At 667,500. How about 670? At 667,000.
68.
At 68 now, at 668. If you want to beat them, sir, it's going to take a bigger bid. At 668,000, the bid's back there, the keys are back there, the opportunity's still with you, won't be for long because we sell here today. At 668,000, fairly been offered, bid there, keys there, once at 668, done. Second call at 668,000, done and finished. Third, final call at 668, all done, all finished. It's a good point. All silent and out at 668,000, done, finished, silent out. We're definitely done. Have your absolute best here today. Happy to sell over there. Thank you very much for your spirited participation. At 668,000, once, twice, third, final call at 668, all done, finished, silent and out at 668,000. We're absolutely sure we are selling, selling, selling. So, congratulations and well bid. Please join me congratulating our purchasers and our vendors here today. You've just witnessed another successful Harcourts, Rata and Co auction. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again soon. Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Congratulations.